Think of a popular mid-sized SUV and it won't take you too long to mutter the Q word, Qashqai. However, the car in this video is a popular SUV but isn't a Nissan Qashqai. It is in fact the latest version of the Kia Sportage, the South Koreans' best-selling model in Europe. But is it an SUV that should be on your shortlist? Keep watching to find out. The Kia Sportage hasn't always been a looker in my opinion, but this facelifted version, I think it looks pretty good indeed. I've got the 2 model, which is just above the base model, and as such I get 17-inch alloys as standard, but this particular car has got the optional infrared paintwork, which I think looks fantastic. One of the key changes for the design of the facelift is you get this chrome strip running along the front bumper, which I do quite like. Of course, you also get the iconic Kia Tiger Nose grille, and you get these very nice headlights. I think the design is really nice. I think it's definitely one of the better looking cars in its segment. And at the back you have this rear light design that wraps its way all the way around the car like a visor. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So Kia, yes, the Sportage looks pretty good. The inside, I'm afraid, isn't quite as striking because it is, in my opinion, well, a little bit boring. Now I know that is subjective, but I would want a little bit more style in here, Kia. Okay, so you get a steering wheel and a gear knob trimmed in leather. You also get soft touch materials on the dashboard and on the door cards, and you get some nice silver surrounds and a bit of gloss black plastic. But yes, it is a little bit bland in my opinion, and if you ask me, there are a few too many buttons. Now again, I know that is subjective, and to be fair to Kia, the buttons are laid out logically. There are some handy features I like in here though. So you have a red ring that glows around the ignition barrel, so it is easier to find in the dark. That's quite handy. And on the speedo, you get a red mark at 30, which is easier to see when you're driving. So again, that is quite a handy touch. So yes, I do quite like that. Now there are a few things in here which I'm not a massive fan of. So obviously I've mentioned the design. The handbrake isn't trimmed in leather like the gear knob and the steering wheel, which may seem like a trivial thing to say, but it just feels a little bit cheap and nasty to operate. And because of the armrest gets in the way slightly when you want to operate the handbrake, so it isn't as ergonomic as it could be. Plus, if you want to slide the armrest forward, watch this, it pretty much makes that cup holder redundant. So again, yes, not the smartest design there. Anyway, let me move on because I don't want to keep moaning. Let me talk about space and practicality. This is an area where, to be honest, I can't really have any moans because it is pretty good. The door bins are of a good size. I've got a can of energy drink in there, that's 500 millilitres in case you are wondering. I've got plenty of space left over, and I've got a packet of nuts in there as well. Pop them back like so. A good sized door bin. In the middle you have 2 cup holders, so I've got a 750 millilitre bottle of water in one, and this one is a little bit smaller, but I can fit my can of drink in there absolutely fine. In the middle you have a small slot where you can pop your smartphone or your wallet or loose change or whatever, or even a packet of nuts. There we are. In the middle, as I mentioned, you've got the armrest which can be lifted up, and in there you've got another storage area, so I can fit the can of drink in there, a packet of nuts, I've got an ice scraper, and I've still got space left over. Pretty good indeed. You've got a sunglasses holder, which is a very handy feature. And last but not least, you do of course get a glove box, which offers a decent amount of space, although the rather thick manual does take up quite a lot of space. Never mind. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller person. Even so, I've got a good amount of knee room left over and also a good amount of leg room. But what about headroom? Well, again, headroom is pretty decent, and what's better still is the rear seats recline. There we are, very nice indeed. So if you are a taller person, getting comfortable in the back of the Sportage will be absolutely fine. Now, could you fit 3 adults in here? Well, I think it would be a bit of a squeeze, but I think it is durable. Okay, the middle seat is a bit slim, and you do have a bit of a transmission tunnel down here as well, but I think it could be durable for a short or medium journey. For a longer journey, no, I'm not too sure. But if you have 2 adults in the back, you can make use of this armrest, which has got 2 cup holders in it. Very handy indeed. You've also got pockets in the back of the seats in front of you, and you've even got a hook up here if you want to hang up an item of clothing or whatever else you may want to hang up. I don't know. You've also got a 12-volt socket, which again is very handy. So the back of the Sportage is spacious and pretty practical. What about the boot? Well, the boot has a decent capacity because it offers 491 litres, which is more than the Nissan Qashqai and the Renault Kadjar, but not quite as much as the Peugeot 3008 and the Honda CR-V. Even so, it offers a decent amount of space, plus the opening is nice and wide. There's also very little lip, so if you want to load bigger or heavier items, it should be very easy. However, if you need more space, you can, of course, fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,480 litres worth of space. In case you are wondering, no, you don't get a spare wheel as standard, but you do, of course, get a tyre inflation kit, or as Kia calls it, a tyre mobility kit. There's a good choice of engines available, so you can either have a naturally aspirated 1.6 litre petrol, a turbocharged 1.6 litre petrol, a turbocharged 1.6 litre diesel, or a 2 litre turbocharged diesel which has a mild hybrid system. The engine I have is the 1.6 litre naturally aspirated petrol, which on paper looks to be quite sluggish because it has just 131 horsepower with 161 newton meters of torque. And to be honest, in and around town, their performance is just fine. You won't well, I don't think you'd really notice the lack of oomph. However, when you take it on a faster road or indeed a motorway, then yes, you are likely to find this car is far from gutsy. And it is quite likely you'll need to plan your motorway overtakes in advance, which can be a little bit tiresome, to be honest. Because the car is naturally aspirated, it does need to be worked pretty hard to make any decent progress. It's not until about 5,000 revs that the power starts to come in. And yes, this engine does need to be worked to get the performance out of it. So if you're looking for a Sportage which has a bit of get up and go, I would recommend going for a different engine, to be honest. In regards to performance, this engine will hit 60 miles per hour in 11.1 seconds and continue to a top speed of 113 miles per hour. This engine is mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is okay to use. For whatever reason, it doesn't feel as slick as the manual gearbox I had in the Kia Sportage I reviewed some time ago. The changes are, yes, they are okay, but they are a bit notchy, and I don't particularly like the noise the action makes. And the change feels a little bit hollow. Yes, I'm not a massive fan of it, to be honest. In regards to the steering is pretty direct. There's not a lot of weight to it, and even once you've built up speed, to me the steering still feels a little bit too light for my liking. But on the plus side, it means this car is very easy to manoeuvre, and in fact this car is quite an easy car to drive. The ride may put some people off. Now, the ride isn't awful, and I maintain this is a comfortable car. However, the ride is busy and it is quite fidgety, no matter what speed you're doing on pretty much every road surface. Obviously, if you drive it on a poor road surface, this problem does get exacerbated. But the ride is quite jiggly, it's never really settled. But on the plus side, it does soak up most big bumps pretty well. And I find the setup is a little softer than the Nissan Qashqai. So swings and roundabouts, and I I would argue this is a more comfortable car than the Nissan Qashqai. The seats actually have got a good compromise between softness and supportiveness. They're not too firm, but they're not too soft. I imagine a lot of you watching this video aren't really looking to buy an SUV for it to handle well, but the Sportage does pretty well in this department. As I mentioned, the steering is light and it doesn't offer a lot of feedback. However, it is pretty direct and the car actually feels quite nimble. Okay, it doesn't feel like a Lotus Elise, of course, but the car feels more nimble and more agile than I was expecting. And it is pretty decent in the corners. Would I go so far to say it is fun? No, not quite, if I'm going to be honest. But it handles itself pretty well. It holds its own. The grip is pretty good. The brakes are good. The body roll is pretty well controlled. So yes, I definitely think you could do worse in this area of the market when it comes to handling. Now, as I mentioned, I'm sure handling isn't a main concern to a fair amount of you watching. You're probably more concerned about the comfort, and as I've mentioned, the comfort is pretty good, although the ride could be better. And I'm sure you want to know about refinement. Well, refinement on the whole is pretty good. Yes, there is a bit of road noise that comes in from these 17-inch alloys, but by no way is it deafening. And the wind noise is pretty well controlled as well. I've driven this on the motorway and it hasn't become overly noisy in here. And yes, the engine does need to be worked hard, but when you rev the engine, it doesn't really shout at you, and I wouldn't call it boomy. And when you're cruising, the engine just works away in the background and you can barely hear it. It is a pretty refined motor. How much does the new Kia Sportage cost? Well, there are quite a few trim levels available. You have 1, 2, Edition 25, 4, GT Line and GT Line S. These range from £20,300 all the way through to £34,545. I have the 2 version in this video, which starts from £22,405, although the model seen here is £23,000 thanks to the optional paint. The 2 trim level is pretty generous as it offers 17-inch alloys, 7-inch touchscreen with Bluetooth, DAB radio, smartphone connectivity and navigation, plus you get front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera, cruise control with speed limiter, lane keep assist, dual zone climate control, high beam assist and heated front seats. This is better value than a Nissan Qashqai as it's a little bit cheaper and the equivalent Qashqai doesn't get heated seats. Also, the Qashqai doesn't come with a 7-year warranty either. The equivalent Peugeot 3008 would cost you around £4,000 more, and the equivalent Renault Kadjar will cost you around £1,000 more. So the Sportage represents decent value. You'd have to pay more for a higher trim level. But how much is it to run? Right, time to talk fuel economy, as I'm sure that is an area that a lot of you want to know about. On a combined run, using the new WLTP method of testing, this engine should give me up to 34.9 mpg, and in my experience, I've actually been getting around 40 mpg, which is pretty good. I'm not too sure why my voice went so high-pitched then. 40 mpg! So yes, it has been relatively frugal, given the type of car it is. Obviously, if you want better fuel economy, then I would urge you to have a look at the 1.6 litre diesel, of course. In regards to CO2, this engine emits a rather dirty 183 grams per kilometre. Ooh, that means for the first year of VED, you'll have to cough up £830. Yes, not very good at all. Now, if you go for the diesel engine, because it emits less CO2, for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay £515, which is an improvement, although it's not exactly cheap, is it? What about safety? Safety is always likely to be at the forefront of buyers' minds when it comes to choosing the right SUV. The Sportage does well in this area, as it was awarded 5 stars from Euro NCAP. Disappointingly though, you'll need to get at least the Edition 25 to get autonomous emergency braking. But the model tested here, the 2, comes standard with lane keep assist, high beam assist, driver attention warning, speed limiter and 6 airbags. It's clear to see why the Kia Sportage has become such a popular model in Europe. It's good looking, it's pretty good to drive, it's practical, spacious, pretty refined, it's safe, and it offers a good amount of value. And don't forget, it's a Kia, therefore you get a 7-year warranty. Okay, it isn't perfect. This 1.6 litre engine isn't particularly brilliant, and the ride could be a little bit better as well. From a more subjective point of view, I would like the inside to be a little more stylish, but on the whole, the Sportage is a good car, and I definitely think it should be on your SUV shortlist. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.